Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Township of North Duncan's public planning meeting for April 26th. We have 3 committee of adjustment applications and 2 public council meetings applications scheduled for this evening's meetings. Members of the public who have registered for all items have been provided with a link and telephone number to join the virtual meeting this evening and have indicated to staff which application they would like to participate in. Staff will move these individuals who have registered into the meeting to speak in the order of the application being heard. Members of the public have been provided with the following methods to watch and participate in this open meeting electronically. Number 1, watch the live stream by accessing the meeting on the Township YouTube page. Secondly, members of the public who are interested in attending as an observer or wanted to speak to an item have been provided with a link and telephone number to join the meeting virtually this evening. And finally, members of the public who wanted to comment on a particular item but were not able to attend the meeting virtually were invited to submit written comments to the Clerks Division, which were provided to the Mayor and Council prior to the meeting. I'd now like to call this meeting to order and have approval of the agenda, please.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Rollerman that Council adopt the April 26, 2022 public meeting agenda as presented with the following addendums. 1. Add 1 piece of correspondence received for item 7.3, report number PD 16, 2022, statutory public meeting, consent application for 99 Stanley Street, file number B03/22. 2. Add 2 pieces of correspondence received for item 8.2, report number PD 18, 2022, housekeeping zoning bylaw amendment, decks, secondary dwelling units, and coach houses, file number ZC04/22.
Thank you, Councilor Gillespie. All those in favor? That's carried. I would now like to do the Indigenous Acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Neutral people. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements and their contributions to our community. We offer this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation between the Indigenous and non-Indigenous people of Canada. I'd now like to pause for a moment of silence as we reflect on our past with the Indigenous people, our journey to today, and our hopes for the future. Thank you. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof? Seeing none. We have a motion, Councilor McCreary, for public planning meeting minutes.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Rollerman that Council approve the public planning meeting minutes dated February the 28th, 2022.
Thank you. All those in favor? That's carried. Can I have the motion to adjourn and sit as Committee of Adjustment?
Moved by myself, second by Councilor McCreary, that the council meeting be adjourned at 7:04 p.m. to sit as Committee of Adjustment for the purposes of holding public meetings pursuant to the provisions of the Planning Act.
All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. We'll pause now until staff move people in and out. And Cynthia, you advise when you're ready.
We're ready.
Thank you. Councilor Rollerman, you have a motion, please.
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Gillespie, that Committee of Adjustment approve the meeting minutes dated February 28th, 2022.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next, we move on to report number PD-09-2022, minor variance application for 1820 Whistlebear Road, file number A-11/21. Notice has been given to those who have requested it. The Secretary Treasurer will record everyone who has commented on this application, attended, and or registered with the Clerks Division to attend the meeting this evening. Those individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of future meetings. I'd like to introduce Christina Blazanovic, planner, GIS technician, who will be presenting this application. Christina, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Councilors, and Administration. This evening, I will be presenting the recommendation report regarding minor variance application A-11/21 for 1316 Dickey Settlement /1820 Whistlebear Road. The property is located at the northwest corner of Dickey Settlement Road and Whistlebear Road, known as Whistlebear Golf Course. Whistlebear Golf Club consists of two impact parcels municipally addressed as 1820 Whistlebear and 1316 Dickey Settlement. The parcel to the west is 1820 Whistlebear, and the parcel to the right is 1316 Dickey Settlement Road. The proposed accessory structure subject to a minor variance is proposed to be on the parcel known as 1820 Whistlebear Road. The property is approximately 92.3 hectares or 228 acres in size, with a lot frontage of 569 meters on Whistlebear and approximately 950 meters on Dickey Settlement. The property can be accessed through Whistlebear Road or Dickey Settlement Road and consists of a golf course, which is a clubhouse, maintenance shop, golf court storage building, and a two-story single detached dwelling. An office and shop for regional sewer and water main is located to the west of the existing residence. The owner is proposing a two-story accessory garage, which is considered to be 3 stories from the rear. The main floor will be used to store business vehicles. The second story will be used to store golf course paperwork, and the basement level will be used for miscellaneous items. The proposed garage is to be accessory to Whistlebear Golf Course and not the residence located at 1820 Whistlebear. The proposed garage will share driveway access with 1820 Whistlebear Road, and the proposed structure will be located 7.73 meters east of the residence. The detached garage is proposed to be 10.67 meters by 12.19 meters or 35 by 40 feet in size and 9.9 meters or 32.5 feet in height. The applicant is seeking relief from the provisions of the general zoning bylaw to construct the 2-story detached garage with lot space on the second story. The first variance being requested is to permit an accessory building between a building line, as section 6.4.1 does not permit an accessory building to be built between an established building line. The second variance being requested is to permit an accessory building with a building line setback of 6 meters, as section 6.10.2 of the general zoning bylaw requires a setback of 30 meters. This is a view from Whistlebear Road. On the left is the existing dwelling at 1820 Whistlebear, and on the right side is where the proposed garage will be located. No comments or concerns have been received from any members of the public. There have been no objections received from the GRCA, Regional Waterloo, Enbridge Gas or Waterloo Catholic School Board. From Energy Plus, the owner applicant may be required to enter into a service agreement, and the owner applicant will be responsible for all costs associated with any changes that may be required or if an easement is required. From building, the design of the structure will need to be done in compliance with the Ontario Building Code for its intended use, and the accessory structure cannot be used as a coach house or for residential purposes. From Engineering and Public Works, no new entrances to Whistlebear Road are permitted, and any modifications to the existing entrance will require a permit from the township. Planning staff are of the opinion that the proposed minor variance is compatible. Staff's planning opinion is based on the following. No major concerns or comments were received by agencies or the public. No new access will be created. The existing driveway access will be shared with 1820. The application meets the 4 tests of a minor variance. There are no impact on environmental features, and the design of the proposed accessory garage will be consistent with the residential dwelling. Planning staff are of the opinion that the requested variances meet the 4 tests of a minor variance as outlined by the Planning Act. The first 2 tests being that the proposed variances conform with the general intent of the zoning bylaw and official plan. Exemption 20.1.218 permits the golf course and associated uses. The proposed accessory garage will be an associated use of the existing golf course. The subject property is designated as open space in the township official plan. The open space designation permits a golf course, and this proposed accessory garage will be accessory to the golf course. Are the proposed variances desirable? The applicant has ensured that neighborhood character would be maintained, and the location is appropriate as an alternative location would conflict with the existing golf course and the septic system on the subject property. Are the variances minor? Section 6.4.6 requires accessory building shall not exceed 10% of the lot area. As this is a large property, the proposed accessory building will be approximately 0.025% of the total lot area. Based on the planning analysis, staff recommend that minor variance A-11/21 for 1820 Whistlebear/1316 Dickey Settlement be approved subject to the following. The proposed accessory building shall be set back from Whistlebear Road by a minimum distance of 6 meters. The accessory building is not permitted to be used as a coach house. The accessory building is accessory to Whistlebear Golf Course only and not the residence located at 1820 Whistlebear. And the building is not permitted to be used for any other businesses other than Whistlebear Golf Club. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Does the applicant wish to make any comments at this time?
Hi, yes. Thank you, Christina, for your presentation, and thank you, committee, for taking the time tonight to make a decision on this application. As mentioned at the public meeting for the minor variance, I'm Mackenzie Meek, and I'm the in-house planner for Whistlebear. I just came to this meeting to confirm Whistlebear's support for the staff report and recommendation, and I'm also available to answer any questions from committee if there are any. Thank you.
Thank you. And there are no members of the public that have registered. Councilors, any questions? I see none. Can I have the motion, please?
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Gillespie, that PD report number 09/2022 be received, and that minor variance application A-1121 being a request to seek relief from general zoning bylaw 689-83 to permit an accessory building between an established building line, whereas section 641 of the general zoning bylaw states that no person shall erect of cause to erect an accessory building between any building lines established by this bylaw. An accessory building with a front yard building setback of 6 meters or 19.8 feet, whereas section 610(2) of the general zoning bylaw requires a building line setback of 30 meters, be approved subject to the following. The proposed accessory building shall be set back from Whistlebear Road by a minimum distance of 6 meters or 19.8 feet. The accessory building garage is not permitted to be used as a coach house. The accessory building garage is accessory to the Whistlebear Golf Course only and not to the residence located at 1820 Whistlebear Road. And the accessory building is not permitted to be used for any other businesses other than Whistlebear Golf Club.
Thank you, Councillor Osler, and the clerk will clarify that that word should be or. Thank you. All those in favor? Thank you, that's carried. We'll just wait for Cynthia to move on the next applicant. Okay. Cynthia, you ready?
Yeah.
Thank you. Report 7.3, report number PD 16-2022, statutory public meeting consent application for 99 Stanley Street, file number B-03/22. Notice has been given to those in accordance with the Planning Act. The Secretary Treasurer will record everyone who has commented on this application, attended and/or have registered with the Clerk Division to attend the meeting this evening. Those individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of future meetings. I'd like to introduce Shaheen Magal, planner, who will be presenting this application. Cynthia, do we have Shaheen?
Oh. Can you hear me now?
Carry on, Shaheen, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, Shaheen.
Yeah, sorry, Madam. So the purpose of the proposed consent application is to sever the property into two lots to facilitate the pending redevelopment of the property, which is comprised of 24 stacked townhouses on the property 99 Stanley Street, and to provide a separate servicing for each building, which is identified on part 1 and part 2 on the site plan, which I will share with you in the next slides. The subject property is located at the intersection of Swan Street and Stanley Street. The approximate area of the proper lot area is 3,822 square meter in size, and the property is serviced by municipal water and sanitary services. If you can see on the aerial map, the north portion of the subject property consists of law office and 9 apartment unit on the upper floor, and surface parking and access to the Swan Street. The southern portion of the property, where the proposed 24 stacked townhouses will be constructed, that is accessed from the Stanley Street and will be comprised of 5, as I mentioned, 24 stacked townhouses and surface parking as well. The township has previously approved a site plan application and minor variance of the subject property as well. Staff reviewed the provincial statutory document. Staff reviewed the statutory regional and township statutory document, which is official plan. The property is located within a built-up area, and the proposed development is aligned with the official plan. As the policy 2.4.5 of the township official plan state, the township will encourage the provisions of new dwelling unit in built-up area in the urban area through infill and intensification or redevelopment compatible with the surrounding uses as well. The subject property is currently zoned as Zone 6. The applicable policies, as you can see, Section 12.2.8 of the zoning bylaw, which permit dwelling unit to the rear of the permitted commercial uses. As I mentioned, let me give you an overview on the proposed consent. As I mentioned, the proposed consent application is to sever the subject property into two lots, as you can see on the site plan, which is identified as part 1 and part 2. So the part 1, as I mentioned, that consists of law office and 9 apartment unit on the upper floor, access to the Stanley Street, and also consists of surface parking. The southern portion, as you can see in the site plan, which will be comprised of 24 stacked townhouses, surface parking, and access to the Swan Street as well. So the key purpose of the consent is to facilitate the installation of separate servicing, for example, water, sanitary, and hydro for each building. And the servicing utilities and access easement will be dealt through the blanket easement across of the both properties, which is identified as part 1 and part 2 on the proposed site plan. And the cross easement of maintenance, access, and drainage would be granted through the transfer to allow overall site to operate as a single integrated parcel. So basically, the whole property be function as a one property. In response to the notice of public meeting within 120-meter radius of the subject property, staff received one correspondence in support of the proposed development. Staff also circulated a submission package to agencies. So the region of Waterloo expressed no objection to the proposed consent application, subject to the condition that the applicant will submitted the archaeological assessment and ministry acknowledgement letter to the satisfaction of the region of Waterloo. Energy Plus required site plan which indicate the proposed severance. So the applicant already provided the site plan. And the majority of comments provided by Energy Plus is basically on the site plan, which is the applicant is also in the process of addressing the comments by Energy Plus. The Public Works Department of Township required the easement agreement. The applicant already provided the easement agreement, which is currently under review. So Bell Canada identified there's a facility, the Bell Canada facility on the property, and they required the easement on the easement on the property. So easement access the property to access the equipment, and particularly in the event of interruption or emergency to restore services to regular telephone lines, alarm service, internet access, and most important, ensure the continuity of 911 services as well. So for the future report to committee, staff will consider or follow up some items or the matters, whether the proposed development conform with the official plan and meet the intent of the zoning bylaw, and the suitability of the land for the purpose of which the land are to be severed, including severed services, as I mentioned, water, sanitary, and hydro, access easement across both the proposed retained and severed lot to facilitate the development. Staff will also consider the comments and concerns received from the member of public and also from the internal department and external agencies as well. So staff recommending that all comments and correspondence received from the member of public and government agencies through the consultation process be returned to staff for future report to committee on the disposition of this matter. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Shaheen. We have Greg Robson, and William Thompson. Would either of you like to make any comments, or would you like to just wait for questions?
Greg Robson, I have no comments. We have a few things straightened out, but I don't see any issues.
Thank you. Councilors, any questions? I don't see anybody's hand up. Can I please have the motion?
Moved by myself and seconded by Councilor Rollman that PD report number 16-2022 be received, and that all comments and correspondence received through the consultation process be returned to staff for further consideration in a future report to committee on the disposition of this matter.
Thank you, Councilor McCreary. All those in favor? That's carried. Cynthia, are you ready?
Yes.
Thank you. Report number PD 17-2022 statutory public meeting consent application for 1786 Sheldon Road, file number B-02/22. Notice has been given to those in accordance with the Planning Act. The Secretary Treasurer will record everyone who has commented on this application, attended, and or have registered with the Clerk's Division to attend the meeting this evening. Those individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of future meetings. I'd like to introduce Christina Blazanovic, planner GIS technician, who will be presenting the application. Christina, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor, councilors, and administration. This evening, I will be presenting the information report regarding consent application B-02/22 for 1786 Shellard Road. The purpose of this meeting is to provide an overview of the proposal, to solicit comments, and identify issues or matters to be assessed by staff. The purpose of this consent application is to create one new residential building lot. A zoning bylaw amendment application was also submitted to amend the land use classification, site-specific exemption, and to recognize an existing detached garage. Jade will be speaking to this application in the next presentation. The subject property is located on the west side of Shellard Road and south of Clyde Road. The property is municipally addressed as 1786 Shellard Road and currently consists of an irregularly shaped lot. There is an existing two-story single detached dwelling to the north of the property with an attached garage, a tennis court, and a detached garage. The subject property is approximately 9.09 hectares or 22.47 acres in size, with a corresponding lot frontage of approximately 349 meters onto Shellard Road. The applicant proposes to sever the subject property, creating one new residential building lot. The proposed retained lot will contain the existing residential dwelling unit, which is identified as item B on the north of the subject property. The proposed severed lot will be approximately 8.68 hectares in size, with a corresponding lot frontage of 301 meters on Shellard Road. The severed lot is labeled as item C, shown in the light blue color. Item D is the portion of the proposed lot that is located within the Mackey settlement area, and item E is the portion of the severed lot, a portion of the proposed severed lot located outside of the Mackey settlement area. It is the intent that the new residential dwelling unit will be constructed on the northern portion of the severed lot, which is item D. The proposed retained lot situated at the north end of the property will be approximately 0.4 hectares in size with a frontage of 48 meters. This is a view from Shellard Road. On the left side is the existing detached garage with an enclosed addition. This is for the proposed severed lot. And on the right side is the existing residential dwelling on the proposed retained lot. The yellow dashed line is a rough estimate of the proposed severance property line. The proposed consent application aligns with policy 1.1.3.1 of the provincial policy statement, as it states that settlement areas shall be the focus of growth and development. The proposed new dwelling will be constructed on the portion of the severed lot that is within the settlement area. As per policy 1.1.3.2, the proposed consent and future dwelling is an efficient use of land and appropriate for the subject property. Regional and township official plan designations. The subject property is situated within the Mackey settlement area. A portion of the property is within the Mackey settlement area. The property is within the Beverly environmentally sensitive landscape. A portion of the property is a provincially significant wetland and designated as core environmental feature. The property is within the rural area and protected countryside. Within the proposed regional corridor, and a portion of the property is within the hazard lands. The subject property consists of multiple zones, Z1 agriculture, Z2 rural residential, Z12A environmental protection 1, Z12C environmental protection overlay, and exemption 20.164, which is shown in blue on the right, also applies to the portion of the property that is located outside of the settlement area. No comments or concerns have been received from any members of the public at this time. Enbridge Gas in the region of Waterloo have no comments or concerns. The GRCA will require a permit for the proposed new dwelling and septic system. Waterloo Catholic District School Board stated that any education development charges be collected prior to issuing a building permit. From the building department, the location of the septic system is to be verified. Staff will address concerns of a concrete pad located near the existing detached dwelling, as it's in close proximity to the proposed new property line. Staff will also address the addition that has been added to the detached garage on the proposed severed lot. Occupancy is not permitted in the recreational trailer that's located on the proposed severed lot. The existing garage on the proposed severed lot looks to be encroaching the proposed zone / settlement area boundary line. So the zone change application will address this, as well as the lot coverage percentage for the accessory buildings on the proposed severed lot. Staff will be considering matters for a future recommendation report to committee, including all comments and correspondence received during the consultation process, the effect of the proposed development on matters of provincial interest, whether development conforms to the official plan, and whether the proposed application meets the general intent of the zoning bylaw, the suitability of the land for the proposed use, if the subject proposal is desirable for this property and compatible with the adjacent uses and properties, the density, scale, height, massing, visual impact, building materials, and character of surrounding buildings, as well as the proposed development, and lastly, landscaping, setbacks, and buffering for the proposed and existing developments. Staff recommends that all comments and correspondence received from members of the public and government agencies through the consultation process be returned to staff for a future report to the committee on the disposition of this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Well, now I believe Evan Woodman wants to speak on this and has a presentation.
Sure. The presentation, actually, I'll save and do that with the rezoning application that's following this item. I thought Christina did a great job giving an overview of the application and bringing it for information. I'm here to answer any questions that you may have as we continue to work with staff in getting the application along. And just to quickly note, there were some building department items noted there, and we are working with staff to resolve those, and many have been done so at this point, such as the addition that's been constructed there has been taken away, and the trailer is not being used as a dwelling. And some of the other items, such as the size of the shed, are being given to staff. So we'll continue to work with them to resolve those matters.
Thank you. Does Jacqueline Lescobar wish to state anything?
No, I don't at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilors, any questions? I don't see any hands. Can I have the motion, please? Oh, did you, Councilor Gillespie, did you have your hand up?
Sorry.
Okay, use the raise hand, okay? Oh, I didn't see it. Go ahead. Yeah, it is. Yeah, go ahead, Councilor Gillespie.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just a little concerned. Didn't we say that there would be no more lot severances in the Beverly Township or Beverly area? So I'm confused why this is.
Someone else have their hand up, see only thing here.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Through to Councillor Gillespie. The issue of the consent activity relevant to the Beverly area is across the rural countryside. The portion of the property that is subject to the future dwelling unit is within the Mackey settlement area, and as such, severance activity can be accommodated within established settlement boundaries.
Okay, Councilor Gillespie?
Thank you. I really have never heard of the Mackey settlement area, so that's news to me too.
Thank you, CEO McNally. Seeing no other comments, can I have the motion, please?
Moved by myself and second by Councillor Ossner that committee adjustment receives P report number 17-2022, and all comments and correspondence received through the consultation process be returned to staff for consideration in the future report to the committee on this issue of this matter.
All those in favor? Carried, thank you. So we move on to
Yeah, we can proceed with the motion.
Okay, can I have the motion to adjourn Committee of Adjustment and return to sitting as council? Councilor McCreary.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Gillespie, that pursuant to the Planning Act, the public meeting of the Committee of Adjustments be adjourned at 7:37 PM. And the council meeting be called back to order.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next in the public meeting, we have report number PD 15/2022, statutory public meeting for proposed zoning bylaw amendment for 1786 Charlotte Road. Notice has been given to those in accordance with the Planning Act. The clerk will record everyone who has commented on this application, attended, and or have registered with the clerk's division to attend the meeting this evening. Those individuals will be notified of the decision of the convening of future meetings. I'd like to introduce Shahid Badal, Township Planner, who will be presenting this application. Shahid, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll be presenting the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application ZC02/22 for the property located at 1786 Charlotte Road. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment application submitted concurrently with the consent application, which presented by Ms. Lesnovic few minutes ago. The purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone the property from Zone 2 to Zone 2A rural residential, and to implement the consent application for the future construction of the single detached dwelling on the subject property. As you can see on the aerial map, the subject property is located to the west side of the Shallow Road, which is in the north portion of the property, which northeast portion of the property is located basically within a Mackey settlement area. The total area of the proposed property, subject property, is 9.9 hectare, which is 22.47 acres in size, with a lot frontage of 349 meter along the Charlotte Road. Subject property currently consists of the single detached dwelling, detached garage, tennis court, and the southern portion of the property, as you can see on the map, which is vacant and currently consists of the core environmental features and the property is serviced by private well and septic system. Staff reviewed the provincial statute document. Basically, as I mentioned, the subject property is located within a Mackey settlement area, and both provincial policy statement and the growth plan encourage that the settlement area should be the focus for the growth and development. So the proposed development align with the provincial policy statement and growth plan as well. When we see the regional official plan and a township official plan, both plan identify the property within a rural area, and the township official plan policy 2.91.4 that says that the township may approve development proposal within a rural settlement area, provided that any lot can be appropriately serviced by a private well and individuals wastewater treatment system, and any new development is compatible with the surrounding land using the form of function. The subject property is basically have a multiple zone, or you can say split zones. The northeast portion of the property is zoned as Zone 2, which is Zone 2 rural residential, and the southern portion of the property, which identified as a Part 2, is basically consists of Z1 agriculture, 12C environmental production overlay, 12C, which is 12C, which is environmental production overlay, and 12A environmental production 1. As I mentioned, the subject properties also have an exemption 20.1.64, which required that the land identified as a Part 2 subject to the holding provision until such time the council and the township is satisfied that archaeological assessment has been completed to the satisfaction of the region and township as well. Let me provide you some overview on the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application. Currently, as I mentioned, the subject property is zoned as Zone 2, which required a municipal lot frontage of 60 meter and minimum lot area of 0.8 hectare. That only apply to the portion of the property which is located within a Maki settlement area. So the applicant proposes to rezone the property from Zone 2 to Zone A to recognize the minimum lot area of lot frontage 30 meter and a minimum lot area of 0.4 hectare. The proposed Zone 2A will apply on the proposed severed lot and retained lot and proposed severed lot as well, which is identified as a part 3 on the sketch. As you can see on the sketch, the severed lot also consists of the existing detached garage. So it is intended to amend the exemption 20.1.64 to recognize the existing garage in front of the proposed single-type dwelling. And Zone 2 basically required the floor area for accessory structure 3%. So the applicant is also proposing 3% to 3.5% for the floor area of accessory structure. And as you can see on the sketch, exemption 20.16.64 also required to amend that to recognize the 0 side yard of the existing detached garage along the southern zone line, because as I mentioned, the property subject to the zoning bylaw amendment is within a Maki settlement area, and when you see the existing garage, that exactly at the edge of the zoning line, so that also does the exemption also need to be amended. And exemption 20.1.64 will remain in place on the southern portion of the severed lot as well. And the future development be limited to the portion of land located within a Maki settlement area, because official plan or regional plan, they permit severance in an area which is within a settlement boundary. So in response to the notice of public meeting within 120 meter radius of the subject property, no comments concern received from the member of public, and the regional municipality of Waterloo expressed no objection to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application. Waterloo Catholic District School Board, they required the education development charges collected prior to the issuance of the building permit. Grand River Conservation Authority expressed no concern. The building department of the Township of North Dumfries, they mentioned that as per the section 6.32.2, the zoning boundary is considered as separate, or when there's a property have a 2 zone, so it is considered as a separate lot. So the building division required the survey to verify the existing location of the detached garage and recognize the encroachment over the zone line of proposed on Zone 2A. The building division also required a licensed septic installer to verify the location of a septic system to confirm it is fully contained in the retained lot, as there's a septic system located and the well is located in the retained lot as well. Energy Plus expressed no objection to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application and they provide the standard comments. So staff, in consideration of future report to council, will be considering the matter, which include the effect of the proposed development on the matter of provincial interest, whether the proposed development confirm with the official plan and meet the intent of the zoning bylaw. The proposed development is desirable and compatible with the surrounding uses in terms of size, density, height, everything. And staff will also ensure the responsive site development such as architectural control, landscape, grading, drainage, servicing, setback, and staff will also consider the traffic generated by traffic generated by surrounding land uses, and the proposed development inclusive of driveway access onto the Shallard Road. So staff recommending that to the council that all comments and correspondence received from the member of public and government agencies through the consultation process be returned to staff for future report to council on the disposition of this matter. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Shahid. And I believe, Evan Whitman, you do have a presentation you wanted to do.
Sorry, I was muted there. Yes, I do have a quick presentation prepared for this matter. If that's okay, I can share my screen. Okay, that come up okay?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So good evening, everyone. I'm Evan Whitman, a planner with GSP Group, and I'll give a brief presentation for the proposed zoning bylaw amendment for 1786 Shallard Side Road. Shahid gave a wonderful overview of the application, so where there is a little duplication, I'll just go quickly over those slides. So as we've noted, the site itself is located at 1786 Shallard Side Road, just south of Clyde Road, and a portion of the site is within the Mackay Rural Settlement area. The site itself is quite large, as outlined in red there, and the existing dwelling is located on the northernmost portion of the site. The southern side is a natural area, as we've seen, with a pond and other environmental features. And the focus of our application is on just that yellow area, essentially. That is the area that's totally within the Mackay settlement area. In terms of the proposed plan, as we've seen, we're going to be having a consent go through this just northernmost portion of the site. So we'll have the retained lot on the northern side that has the existing dwelling. And then on the southern side, where the existing detached garage is, to the rear of that side is where the proposed dwelling is going to go. This is going to create a new lot with the frontage, as you can see there, about 48 meters on each side. And as we'll explain in the zoning bylaw amendment itself, the site-specific provisions around frontages and lot sizes, those aren't being amended on a site-specific basis. The amendment itself is more to deal with the existing conditions of the existing garage, as well as recognize the exception that's on the entire property and mostly the southern portion that isn't going to be altered in any manner. To quickly go over again on the provincial and regional planning policies, the PPS and growth plan direct for rural settlement areas to be the focus of growth in rural areas, and the land should be used efficiently there. And the Region of Waterloo official plan permits new lots in rural settlement areas as long as they can be appropriately serviced, which the proposed development can. The North Dumfries official plan, as you can see on the image, the northernmost portion of it is entirely within the Mackay settlement area, and the larger portion to the south is outside of that, but that is not being touched through these applications. The focus is on just the settlement area. And there are policies on the official plan about development applications in rural settlement areas, and they are permitted as long as some criteria are met. And we feel as though that these criteria are met through the application. We think it's compatible with the surrounding land in use and form and function. It is compatible and conforms to all the other applicable policies of the plan, and it can be appropriately serviced through private servicing. In terms of the zoning bylaw, to give, again, another quick little overview, the site is currently split zoned, with the northern portion being a rural residential or Z2 zone, and the southern portion is the agriculturally and environmentally protected zone. The southern portion of the site, along with the neighboring property to the south, is under that exception 20.1.64, which provides some required lot areas for those lands. Based on this, a zone change is required to permit the lot size and frontages of the retained portion and the severed lot that is within the settlement area. So the zoning bylaw amendment itself will rezone that portion to the Z2A, which is a slightly more dense rural residential zoning than the Z2 zone. And this is to recognize that with that lot line being created, we'll have slightly smaller frontages than the Z2 zone permits, but the Z2A does permit that along with those lot sizes. There will be some site-specific provisions introduced to address that existing detached garage on the site, as well as the site-specific exception that is currently in place. In terms of how these applications will integrate with the surrounding context, the two lots will have frontages, considering that when we do the rezoning, it'll be treated as a separate lot, even though there isn't technically a lot line on that southern red line. Looking at the lot fabric in the area compared to where those two lines are being introduced, they're very similar to the frontages seen along both Scheller Road and Clyde Road. And the properties will remain more than 80 meters in depth, which is, we feel, more than adequate to reinforce the rural residential character that we see in the area. And in terms of the existing conditions that we see near the subject site, on the western side of Schellard Road, there's currently 2 properties, but it reads similarly to there being 4 properties in place, as indicated through the 1, 2, 3, and 4 numbers there. With number 1, it appears as though it's just a vacant corner lot. Then there's a line of trees, and then where a dwelling is placed. Then there's another line of trees and the subject site where an existing dwelling is located, and then another line of trees, and then the location where the proposed dwelling is proposed to go. So in terms of what the current conditions look like, it already appears as though there's several properties there due to the tree lines. So this application is a way to formalize and make it a technical adjustment, really, to have those different lots be actually different lots, although we're not touching lots 1 or 2. This is just an example for what we see there right now. So to summarize, the proposed plan is consistent and in conformity to the PPS, growth plan, and regional official plan. And it also conforms to the Township of North Dumfries official plan. The zone change, related consent, and proposed single detached dwelling are appropriate and consistent with the character of the area and demonstrate an efficient use of land within the rural settlement area. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, and thank you for the time.
Thank you, Evan. There's no members of the public. Councilors, any questions? Can you take down the screen share, please, Secretary?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you. I have a few questions, or not questions, but comments for Shahid. It looks like you're going with a smaller lot frontage. So we'll have to see how that fits in and conforms with the area. The garage you're talking about putting in front of the residence, which has been a point that this council and other councils of North Dumfries have a problem with in the past. It will depend on how it looks aesthetically and matches with the areas. Also, it states that you're encroaching over the zone line, and I'm sure Shahid will look into that as well. With a 0 side yard setback, again, another concern, and the garage is not larger than we normally have it. But I'm sure these things will all be addressed through our further research with our staff. I see no other comments. Can I have the resolution, please?
Moved by myself, second by Councilor Roman, PD report number 15-2022 be received, and that all comments and correspondence received through the consultation process be returned to staff for further consideration and a future report to council on the disposition of this matter.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Next up, we have 8.2, report number PD-18-2022, housekeeping zoning bylaw amendment, decks, secondary dwelling units, and coach house, file number ZC-04/22. The clerk will record everyone who has commented on this item, attended and or have registered with the clerk's division to attend the meeting this evening. These individuals will be notified of the decision or the convening of future meetings. CO McNeely, Chief Administrative Officer, will be making the presentation.
Moving these individuals in. Just moving these individuals in.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council and public. The purpose of tonight's public meeting is to consider a proposed housekeeping amendment to general zoning bylaw 689-83. We're dealing with 3 items: decks, secondary dwelling units, and coach houses. The applicant is the Township of North Dumfries as the sponsor for this amendment, and this is listed under file number ZC-04/2022. The purpose of the public meeting tonight is to introduce the proposal, and how it relates to General Zoning Bylaw 68983, to identify issues and to solicit comments from interested members of the public, agencies, and members of council as we assess the merits of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. As I indicated previously, the township is the applicant in this case. The proposed zoning bylaw amendment has been designed to establish revised regulatory provisions to the general provisions of zoning bylaw 68983. Focusing on two specific areas. One is to introduce for the first time standards for the construction of decks within the residential properties, which would include required setbacks in relationship to property lines, and to establish a deck definition. So there's consistency in interpretation as to what constitutes a deck. We're also proposing to update and revise the standards as they relate to secondary dwelling units and coach houses that are applicable within residential properties. There are currently provisions in the township zoning bylaw related to these two types of dwelling units. We are revising or making recommendations to revise those standards. It's important to note that the proposed housekeeping amendment applies to all residential zone classifications and within agricultural properties that are zoned to allow a residence within the entire corporate limits of the township of North Dumfries. To provide some context so there's a clear understanding of the difference between the two types of dwelling units, a secondary dwelling unit is situated within the boundaries of a principal residence. So it's within the walls of an existing principal residence, and it forms a permanent, separate, self-contained unit. And for clarity, a self-contained unit is devised with sleeping quarters, cooking facilities, and washing facilities and living space. The secondary dwelling unit is meant to be subsidiary, secondary to the principal residence. By contrast, a coach house means a separate, permanent, self-contained second dwelling unit that is separate. In other words, it's outside the four walls of the principal residence, and it can be a freestanding structure. It can be attached to or above a detached garage or another accessory building that may be present on the subject lands. To provide some context and summary of the changes that are being proposed, as noted previously, the township in 2018 had adopted provisions in General Zoning Bylaw 68983 to facilitate the construction of secondary dwelling units and coach houses. So we have 3.5 years of experience with these types of dwelling units, and we've learned through the application of proposals as to what's worked well and where we've had some issues. But equal to this, the province in 2019 adopted through Bill 108, More Homes, More Choices Act. They amended the Planning Act to actually broaden permissions related to accessory dwelling units. And by that action, we're obligated to bring forward amendments to comply with Section 16.3 of the Planning Act. As such, we need to update our provisions that currently regulate secondary dwelling units and coach houses to align with the applicable elements of Bill 108. And we've also had experiences today dealing with these types of structures, and there's an opportunity to provide some revisions and make that process more clean in terms of processing. Moving to the next page. Right now, we only allow either a coach house or a secondary dwelling unit. To align appropriately with Bill 108, we are proposing to revise so that an owner can have a coach house and a secondary dwelling unit, or a secondary dwelling unit, or a coach house. So the maximum yield would be 2 dwellings, accessory to the principal residence, or the owner can opt for one or the other. A secondary dwelling unit, we're proposing to change the spatial thresholds. If the dwelling unit is located at or above grade, the space allocated to the secondary dwelling unit would have a maximum size of 45% of the gross floor area of the principal dwelling. We've introduced for the first time a minimum space to be allocated to that living area. The minimum size of a secondary dwelling unit would be equivalent to 45 square meters or 485 square feet. If the dwelling unit itself is located in the basement of the principal residence, then there is no minimum maximum threshold. You could occupy, there is no maximum. You can occupy the entire space of the basement area, but you would still have to meet the minimum requirements of the 45 square meters. By contrast, a coach house, remembering that this is a detached entity, size would be no greater than 45% of the gross floor area of the principal dwelling unit, or 110 square meters, whichever is the lesser of the two amounts. Similar to the secondary dwelling unit, the space allocated for the coach house in terms of livable area would not be less than 45 square meters. And when we look at the land area in the context of a buildable area, we've used the accessory structure thresholds that are applicable to the residential zone for which the building is to be constructed. Next page, please. The maximum height of a coach house, we are proposing revisions. If the coach house is attached to or above a detached garage, the building would not exceed 5.2 meters. And that's the maximum allowance in the general zoning bylaw for an accessory structure related to height. If, however, the coach house is a freestanding structure or forms part of another accessory building that's not a detached garage, the building height then for the coach house would not exceed 3.6 meters in height. As I mentioned a moment ago, we've removed the minimum lot area requirement related to coach houses, and we've tied it now back to building setbacks from rear and side lot lines as per the base zone classification assigned to the subject lands, and the associated lot coverage for accessory structures within those applicable residential zone classifications. The next part of the housekeeping amendment deals with decks. As I mentioned a moment ago, there are presently no regulatory provisions in the comprehensive zoning bylaw to govern the siting or construction of a deck within a residential property. It's important that we establish a definition so that there is consistency in the interpretation of what actually constitutes a deck. A deck is an unenclosed structure that would be 0.6 meters or greater in height above the average grade of the area to where the structure is to be constructed. And a deck may be attached to a building or be in the form of a detached structure. The 0.6 meter offset from grade is an important element because that under the building code, where a deck is greater than 0.6 meters or 2 feet above grade, you have to have safety rules. So it's a fall arrest measure. Anything below the 0.6 meter is deemed to be landscape. A deck would be permitted in any property zoned residential or agriculture where a residential building exists. The deck would then be measured greater than 0.6 meters above average grade. And when you actually position it in the context of the property boundaries, it would not be allowed to encroach within a required side yard setback as established for the principal dwelling. So in this example, if the interior side lot line for a residential building is 1.5 meters minimum offset from a property line, then the deck couldn't be any closer to the property line than 1.5 meters. As it relates to the setback of the rear yard, the deck would be allowed to intrude up to a maximum of 3 meters into a required yard setback. So in a traditional residential zone, if the rear yard setback is 7.5 meters from the principal residence, the deck could encroach 3 meters into that and would have to be offset a minimum distance of 4.5 meters from the rear lot line. Correspondence has been received from the agency and public circulation. There were no members of the comment from the public submitting comments. The Waterloo Region District School Board had no objections to the text of the proposed housekeeping amendment. They did identify, however, that school boards will collect development charges on any ancillary dwelling units when a building permit is issued. The region and the township, by legislation, are not allowed to collect development charges for ancillary dwelling units. It's part of the broader affordable housing strategy of the province of Ontario. The region of Waterloo, they had no objections or concerns on the draft provisions related to the construction or siting of decks. The region of Waterloo, however, wishes to seek clarity as it relates to servicing the future ancillary dwelling units, whether it be in the context of municipal water, sanitary services, so an urban setting, or private individual wells or septic systems in rural settlement or the countryside. We want to have additional language put in place to ensure that capacity can be appropriately accommodated to support the built form. And in the context of coach houses within an agricultural setting where there is a principal residence, they want to ensure that the future ancillary dwelling unit is constructed as part of the immediate homestead and does not extend into or close proximity to agricultural practices, whether that might be cultivated fields or if there's an accessory farm buildings and the like. The recommendation to council from staff in the consideration of this matter is that all comments and correspondence received through the consultation process be returned to staff for further consideration, and there will be a follow-up report to Township Council on the disposition of this matter.
Thank you, CEO McNeely. I believe Evan Whitman has a presentation. Do we have Evan still? I do not see him. Do we have any of the members of the public that were here to wish to comment or ask questions? Sharon Herrera, Megan Earle, Noreen Douglas, Susan McDonald, Aaron Hacking.
I'm just moving them in right now. One moment, please.
Thank you. For the presentation.
They would have been able to watch it.
So there seems to be an issue moving them in. So I'll just ask any of them if they would like to speak. I'm just unmuting you.
I have no comments. Thank you.
Okay, I see Noreen Douglas. Noreen, do you have any comments?
No, thank you. I do not at this time. Thank you.
Thank you. Megan Earle?
I have no comments. Thank you.
Susan McDonald? Yes, Susan, you're on mute. And I don't see Aaron Hacking. Councilors, any questions? Councilor Roman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is to the CAO. With regard to the secondary dwelling in the existing house, it says that we're allowed to occupy the entire basement. I recall a case in Toronto about a year ago where someone that's actually enlarging their basement and going to deeper levels of the basement to actually create a dwelling that was larger in the basement portion than the main floor of the house. I'm just wondering, is this a loophole or potential loophole in our proposal that would allow someone to actually expand or enlarge the basement, which would be more than 45% of the square footage of the main floor of the house? Do we need to put some sort of provision to limit the size of the basement or the depth of the basement?
Madam Mayor, through to Councilor Roman, I'm concerned about putting a restriction on deepening the basement. That is going to be an exercise almost of an engineering review and the structural integrity of it, and just realigning foundation wall footings. As it relates specifically to expanding the footprint of the basement beyond the external walls of the building, I guess under the scenarios drafted, one would be able to do that. However, you would still be limited to relationships to lot lines. So that you could not extend through to an adjacent or across an adjacent property line. If it would assist with respect to clarity, we could say that it would not extend beyond the existing perimeter of the exterior walls of the residence. So the only way you would be able to do that is if you actually extended the walls above grade. You could match that then revised footprint.
Thank you, CEO McNeely. CEO McNeely, just for clarification, the Gore Estates on Northumberland Street here, there are a deck on the back of them. Now, we say that there has to be a rear yard setback for the deck. Would any of those decks that exist now be allowed in this new bylaw?
I don't know the setbacks of those decks vis-a-vis the existing rear lot lines. Certainly, if this provision is put into the bylaw, they would be granted legal non-conforming status. In other words, they were established before the zone provisions came into effect. So it would not affect them in the present form. However, if a person in the Gore Estate down the road, just pretend the bylaw was adopted, they would be subject to the new provisions.
I guess I would have to actually see how it would fit in. You know, we are getting more denser housing in 99 Stanley Street as well. And we're saying that they potentially could not have a deck because the distance they have at the back of those properties as well. So that's something I'd like to have seen or if it's applicable or not.
So we could assist council by providing cross-sectional drawing. Generally speaking, 4.5 meters would be limited amount of green space that you would have in most of our traditional urban lots. The standard of that is generally the norm across Waterloo region for most ground-related housing.
Okay, so 4.5 meters is you're saying grass lot at the back of properties, correct? What would be the distance at the back that they would have to keep the deck from?
So if on a residential lot, the zone establishes a rear yard setback of 7.5 meters. If the dwelling itself is situated right at that 7.5 meter setback, they would be able to extend 3 meters into the rear yard setback, which would then leave a 4.5 meter setback from the deck to the rear lot line.
Thank you, CEO McNeil. Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This question for the CAO. On the second dwelling, the secondary unit, it cannot be more than 45% of the square footage of the primary dwelling. So just so I understand, if you have a home that's 1,500 square feet on the main level, and you have 1,500 square feet in the basement, 1,500 square feet upstairs, that's 4,500 square feet. The secondary unit can be up to 45% of that 4,500 square feet.
So in the definition of the zoning bylaw for gross floor area, the basement area, area below grade, does not classify as part of the calculated area for gross floor area. It would just be at grade and the second story.
However, our residents are taxed if you finish your basement as usable living space. So why do we not count that space?
The resident is taxed on the finished portion of the basement, not necessarily the unfinished. But in the way the zoning bylaw back in 1983 was defined, gross floor area was at grade or second or more stories.
So then that holds true for bungalows. You will not be able to count the tax square footage that you're using in the basement. It's only on the main one level.
So for the purposes of assigning the square footage of the second suite, it would be the calculated area of the main floor at grade for the bungalow. So if the bungalow had a 1,500 square foot floor plate at grade, then the unit would not be greater than 675 square feet if it was on the main floor. Now, if it was in the basement, then it could occupy up to the maximum available area within the basement area.
That I can see, this just adds my question, that I can see might be a bit of a problem, because if you have a bungalow and you want to do a secondary unit, like a granny flat or something, and 600 and something odd square feet, if you only had 1,500 square foot bungalow, 600 something odd square feet is not very big for a secondary unit on the property.
So Madam Mayor, through Councillor Ossner, the current provisions related to secondary suites limit the maximum area to 40%. Under this proposal, we've increased it to 45%. And that was in recognition where we did have some requests for slightly larger units. And so to demonstrate that it's still secondary to the principal residence, we had to be below the 50% threshold. We increased it from 40 to 45 in the draft document.
And just to finish up, then, is there a way to put in a provision that a resident could come for a minor variance if, for example, they had a 1,500 square foot bungalow? Like there's a lot of properties in the town where there's bungalows on large properties, and if you're only going to count, let's say 1,500 square feet, if you wanted to put a secondary unit in for your grandparents or children or whatever reason it may be, and you can't really fit anything under 1,000 square feet, really, if you want to do some sort of half decent without living in too small of a space. Is there a way to allow a resident with a 1,500 square foot bungalow to allow them to do, let's say, 1,000 square feet, so that they have, you know, at least some room for a secondary unit for their parents or something?
So Madam Mayor, through Councillor Ossner, any zone provision at any point in time, an individual can bring forward a minor variance request if they're not able to achieve the standards as articulated in the zoning bylaw. And each minor variance is then judged on its merits specific to that site, and I'll call it the reality of that building or its relationship to adjacent uses. And that would be subject to an application, a public meeting, and a decision of the committee then assessing on the merits of my variance specific to that site.
I see no other questions. I just have one comment, Councillor Austin, is we have to be very careful in these secondary units that we don't, people use them rather than going through a sevens to create a secondary lot. Because if they're almost the same size or just slightly smaller than the residential house itself, then what you've done is you've prevented a sevens happening by killing a secondary unit. But that's something that will happen down the road once we get this all clear. Can I have the motion, please?
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Rowland that PD report number 18-2022 be received, and that all comments and correspondence received through the consultation process be returned to staff for further consideration in a future report to council on the disposition of this matter.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. Councillor Austin, can I have the confirmatory dialogue, please?
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Rowland, that bylaw number 3321-22, being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council on April 26, 2022, be read a first, second, and third time and be finally passed, signed, and sealed by the mayor and clerk.
All those in favor? That's carried. Thank you. And the adjournment, please.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Ossner, that whereas business before this public planning meeting has been completed at 8:22 p.m., be resolved that this meeting adjourns and meets again on May 2nd at 6 p.m. for committee of the whole.
All those in favor? Passed. Thank you.